Ladies and gentlemen, after a triumphant return last week, here we are again with episode 9 of Brian versus the Dirtsheets. It really is a joy for me to sit here in this chair, sit here in what I like to call Judge's Hideaway, and give you guys the analysis, breaking down the bullshit within the wrestling industry. That's why I'm here. That's what I do. And we only have 2 reports this week because these 2 reports kind of define why the fuck I started this show in the first place. All right. So we're gonna jump right into it with the very first topic of Stephaine Vaquer and the canceled contract signing. Now, if you're subscribed to the Soapbox Network on YouTube, and if you're not, please subscribe. We have lots of content. You can check out all of our Ring Takes episodes, as well as other episodes in the archives of Brian versus the Dirtsheets. Please subscribe to the Soapbox Network on YouTube. So if you were already subscribed and you tuned into episode 121 last week of Ring Takes, you'll know that the hat made an appearance. Yeah, the hat made an appearance to describe the frustration that I currently have with the booking of Stephaine Vaquer up until this past Monday night of Raw. Before then, she was being booked very poorly, in my opinion. She hadn't had a match on Raw in a while. She won the Battle Royal at Evolution to become number 1 contender. And she was supposed to have the match at Clash in Paris, but then obviously Naomi got pregnant, relinquished the title, and it kind of changed the booking plans. But I felt that at that time that Stephaine Vaquer, even with those changes, should have been featured on Monday Night Raw on a weekly basis. A lot of fans don't watch NXT, so they don't know about how great that run was. So you kind of got to remind people of why she's great. I mean, to me, she's a badass, she's beautiful, and she's great in the ring. And there's a clip on Ring Takes' X page of my entire rant. So please take a look at that. But after I cut that rant, Meltzer put out a report as to why that contract signing from 2 weeks ago on Monday Night Raw was canceled. And I'm not going to read the entire report, but it's pretty much stating that based upon his sources in WWE, which is code for bullshit, his sources are stating that the contract signing was canceled because Stephaine Vaquer was suffering from a minor injury. And within that report, he even says that it was a minor injury, and that essentially because of that minor injury, they didn't want to risk anything in a contract signing segment. Now, out of all the reports that I've read since I've started this show, this report is the biggest crock of bullshit I've ever read. Just looking at it from a common sense standpoint makes no fucking sense. Okay, now Stephaine Vaquer and Io Sky are both babyface characters, right? If you've been watching Monday Night Raw, the story that's being told with Io Sky right now is pretty much in regards to her relationship with Asuka and Kairi Sane, and pretty much how they've been essentially sisters in a sense for a number of years, and Asuka and Kairi want to help Io, but Io wants to do it on her own, and Asuka is taken aback by it because she wants to help. And it's pretty much one of those stories. So Io has been a big babyface, and honestly, one of the hottest women in WWE this past year. And Stephaine Vaquer coming up from NXT, like I said, she's beautiful, she's a badass, she's great in the ring. Coming up and kind of being labeled in a sense as the future of the WWE's women's division. Excuse me. Her coming up. The fans love her. So you got 2 babyface characters, and you mean to tell me a minor injury is the reason why they wouldn't want to do a contract signing? There are 2 fucking babyface characters. which means the contract signing is not going to end in a fucking physical altercation. So why the fuck would a minor injury be the reason why that the contract signing is canceled? Now, does that make sense to anyone? I'm just thinking from a common sense standpoint. They're both baby faces going into this match. Now, if Naomi hadn't gotten pregnant and she still factored in and she was still world champion and the contract signing was canceled and that was the reason given, I can somewhat understand that, because Naomi being such a great heel character as she was, Stephanie being the babyface character in the future of the women's division, that would make sense. But these are two babyface characters, very strong babyface characters, I might add, with Io. And you're telling me that the contract segment was canceled because of a minor fucking injury, whereas if it was a minor injury, they could have still did the contract signing and just not have it be physical? That makes no fucking sense at all. And apparently, I'm not the only one who feels that way about that shit, because Stephaine Vaquer herself did a podcast interview with a gentleman by the name of, let me see if I can pull this up here, by a gentleman by the name of Adrian Hernandez. She addressed the rumors that she was injured, and she quickly shot them down. I see the quote I have here is that when Adrian asked her exact words, and I quote, "No, I saw social media. Sometimes many things are not real. There's no injuries. I'm ready for Raw next Monday," which ended up being the match that she had with Kairi Sane, which was a tremendous match, and it kind of reiterates my point as to why the fuck were we not getting that from Stephaine Vaquer from a booking standpoint for the previous weeks since she became number one contender at Evolution. I get it. Naomi's pregnancy kind of changed things, but you still could have featured her in matches on Monday Night Raw to kind of remind people as to why she's somebody that we need to be taking seriously moving forward. She's somebody that you can invest the entire women's division around in the future. Again, I'm gonna say it again. She's beautiful, she's a badass, and she's tremendous in the ring. Those three reasons alone are the reason why she should have been featured on TV better. But again, this is another example. This goes back to, I believe, episode 2 or 3 of Brian versus the Dirtsheets, when I talked about a report that Meltzer put out about Kevin Owens' neck injury. If you guys remember, Kevin Owens, he came out on the episode of SmackDown and announced that he was going to get surgery, canceling his match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania. And I think Meltzer had reported that the very next day, or the next 2 days, he was scheduled to get neck surgery, and then Kevin Owens had to come out on X and pretty much say, like, we haven't planned anything yet. There is no surgery plan, so we don't know what the hell is being reported. We don't know what the hell Meltzer is saying. This is the exact same shit. I really want to know, and I know journalists can't do that, can't give out that information. I really want to know who the fuck he talked to. Because first of all, number one, if your sources are as legitimate as you say they are, even you should have saw right through that bullshit. So, this is what WWE told me directly. This is what WWE told you directly. Well, either your sources are fucking playing you, or you're just a dumbass motherfucker. Like again, you have two baby faces, with one of them being already involved in a story with her friend, her sister, essentially, already in a respective story. So why would a contract signing be canceled if there are two baby faces involved? Like I said, you could have the contract signing, have no physicality, no physical altercations whatsoever, and you could still have a very impactful contract signing. I believe I also joked on Ring Takes that why else wouldn't they want to do this? Is it because both women's English isn't both women's first language, so they're afraid of how it was going to come off on TV. I joked and said maybe that's the reason why they canceled the contract signing, but then I also recalled that on the Raw after WrestleMania, before they had an impromptu match, they kind of had a back and forth promo duel that the crowd was into heavily. So the way I see it, you could have clear myself up here. The way I see it, you could have still had the contract signing regardless. And again, this is Dave Meltzer again. Either your sources are playing the fuck out of you, supposedly your sources. Either they're playing the fuck out of you, or you're just a dumbass. Because to report that without even using your fucking head and using the common sense to realize that they're two babyface women, why would a minor injury to one prevent them from having a contract signing if there's no intention of it getting physical? The only other way I could see if like injury played a role is if the injury was severe enough to like where like you could see on TV, like if she had like a broken like she had like a sprained knee and she had to be on crutches or something, then you can clearly see the injury. But if it was something minor, she could have been out there. She could have been out there with the She could have been out there, had the contract signed, and that could have been it. And again, this is another example of these bullshit reports putting the talent in the position where they gotta come out and kind of like defend themselves over some bullshit rumors. It's like we live in this age right now where like people want to know the reason for everything that's going on. People want to know the reason or they want to know something. So when they hear something that just sounds like it could be the reason, oh, let's go with that. Let's go with that. But even in this case, Meltzer, use your head. Look at the characters. Look at the characters that are involved. Look at the circumstances. And please come up with a better conclusion than that bullshit. Like, please. Second and final topic of tonight. Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling refusing TNA talent. Now, I'm not going to lie. When I saw this report, I was just laughing my tail off because this is another example of it not making a lot of sense. So for those people that don't know, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling is a startup wrestling promotion started by former I think head of creative on the TNA. What was it? Scott Demore. I don't remember what his position title was, but he used to work for TNA. Now he started Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, which is obviously based out of the country of Canada. And the report is that apparently talent from TNA is not allowed to work Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling because TNA management considers AEW as the enemy, and therefore, because of that, they're not going to let their talent work. Let their talent work for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. And Tommy Dreamer, who's the head of TNA's creative, he came out and pretty much said it was bullshit. Carlos Silva, the president of TNA, he came out and said it was bullshit. The senior vice president of Anthem Sports, he came out and said it was bullshit. All these three of these guys sent out tweets, pretty much discrediting the hell out of Dave Meltzer. And this is it's another common sense question. If you're a startup professional wrestling company, why would you forbid any talent from any company from coming out? I mean, cross promotion is a huge thing. I mean, with this WWE and TNA partnership, and with AEW and CMLL, and obviously with WWE purchasing AAA, these are all opportunities to rub with the two major wrestling companies in North America right now, in both WWE and AEW. So realistically, if you're starting out, you shouldn't be refusing anybody, because you're trying to build up your wrestling promotion. You're trying to create buzz, create anticipation, draw money to your events. So you shouldn't be refusing anybody. And there's another aspect of this that's very frustrating. It's Dave Meltzer and the whole tribalism thing. Now, I've stated on numerous occasions that the tribalism between wrestling fans it's very childish, and it's very childish and stupid, because at the end of the day, the talent doesn't feel that way about each other. You know how many social media posts I've been seen in my life with talent from both companies hanging out together, going to baseball games or whatever the case may be. They're all hanging out together or they're taking photos together, and it's just like the tribalism only exists amongst the fans, and it's stupid. Like there are AEW fans out there who wish and think it's 1995, 96 again, that they're WCW going head to head with the WWE, and it's not, and things aren't like that anymore, and things aren't really going to be like that as far as AEW goes. I mean, you're not the threat that WCW was to WWE back in the day. If you watch old documentaries or listen to interviews from a talent that competed back then, WCW was a threat to the WWE. It almost put the WWE out of business before the Attitude Era started. That was a threat. AEW is not that level. It's not at that level of threat yet. I mean, they're a 6-year company. They're still building steam. They have gotten better with their creative over the last couple of years, even though some of that doesn't show within the viewership lately, but they have been getting better. And I bring up the tribalism bullshit because Dave Meltzer is kind of like the head honcho when it comes to it. I mean, if you listen to his podcasts or read his reports, there's a lot of bias against WWE. And he really seems like he's pro AEW. And now he'll come out and say he's not an AEW shill, but his actions and his reports say otherwise. I wouldn't be surprised if one day it's revealed that Dave Meltzer has some type of stock in the company, or that he invested in the company in the very beginning, and he's looking for a return on his investment. There's going to be something that comes out in the coming years or whatever, if AEW even becomes a public company or whatever the case may be. But it's going to be revealed that Dave Meltzer is on the payroll somehow, because again, this is another common sense thing. He said that they're being refused because TNA looks at AEW as the enemy. Okay, first of all, I understand that TNA and AEW had a partnership a couple years ago with Tony Khan and Scott D'Amore, and the partnership really didn't do anything for either side, because AEW, and I don't know if this was just Tony Khan as a rookie. He didn't realize that, like, for a partnership, both sides have to benefit and not just your side. So, like, little things like whenever they would do like the little promotional spots on Impact, and they're just burying the show, it's like, yeah, that's hyping you guys up, but what about Impact? You had Kenny Omega as the Impact World Champion. He was showing off the title on episodes of Dynamite. What did that really do? It didn't really do much of anything. So the initial partnership between both companies really wasn't what it should have been down the line. Because do you recall seeing a lot of TNA talent in AEW during that time? I don't. But now you see this partnership with WWE and TNA, or with NXT and TNA, and you're seeing NXT stars showing up on Impact. You're seeing Impact stars show up on NXT, almost to a point where WWE is showing some interest in some of these guys, like the Joe Hendrys of the world, the Mike Santanas of the world, and many others. So to say that to say that TNA would be refusing talent from AEW just because of the partnership that went bad, that's based upon what I've heard from Carlos Silva, and Tommy Dreamer, and the senior vice president of Anthem Sports. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but just based upon what I've been seeing from them, it's like it's another common sense thing. If you're a startup company in the wrestling business, why would you not want to pair up and partner with as many wrestling promotions as you can? Now, I understand that obviously there could be some personal feelings. We don't know what certain people's relationships are with other individuals, but at the end of the day, if you're a startup wrestling company, it's kind of your best interest to be on good terms with everybody. And a lot of this thing people don't realize. You know who the world champion of Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling is? It's Josh Alexander, who's a contracted AEW wrestler right now. So, and by the way, he's not even allowed to bring his title on to Dynamite, which is weird because you see Mercedes Moné with all her title, with all those titles from all those promotions, giving those promotions a little bit of shine every time this title appears on Dynamite. But yet the Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Champion doesn't wear his title. There's something very weird about that. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's again, and then it's Dave Meltzer again putting everybody in a position where now they gotta come out and pretty much squash the BS and pretty much tell people that like, yeah, TNA, we work with we do work with other we work well with others, excuse me. And obviously the partnership with WWE proves that. And I think Tommy Dreamer has said in one of his tweets that he wants all wrestling companies to succeed, and that's how we should all feel. I know that with WWE and the business moves that they've made lately, it's kind of difficult to say that WWE wants everyone to be successful because now all they care about is themselves, and the counter programming of AEW gives another message. But at the end of the day, we're in the business. It's about the business, making money, and we as the fans, we should want all wrestling companies to succeed. There shouldn't be a fan out there that wants a wrestling company to fail. But again, this is Meltzer again, waving that tribalism fan fucking flag for AEW, and by pretty much making TNA out to be the bad guys, or making TNA and Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling out to be the bad guys, by saying that we can't have any TNA talent, or making Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling out to be the bad guys. I'm sorry, making them out to be the bad guys by saying we don't want to have any TNA talent, but yet they're a startup company. You would need those partnerships. Meltzer, what the fuck are we doing, man? Like, seriously, what the hell are we doing? So that brings us to the end of episode 9 of Brian versus the Dirtsheets. A little short episode, because those two reports, like I said at the beginning of the show, were kind of the definition of why I wanted to start this show. But I've been doing some thinking. Week after week, being on social media, it's had me thinking. The Dirt Sheet reporters aren't the only one who deserve the smoke. I'll let you guys marinate on that. That brings us to the end of episode 9. Keep in mind, you see the hat? This is my fucking show and I fucking matter. Now I'm about to go smoke a blunt. Excuse me.